when we think about the impact, the sizable impact of what this potential integration of the two militaries actually represents, is it's dangerous on a level that I don't think people truly understand. And this also gets back to why there is this overt obsession with the data centers, because in reality, what this country is becoming is a surveillance state. That's basically what they want to do.
We are that. We've been that for a while.
Yeah. They think the only way to actually stop a revolution, because again, anything that we can think of, they can think of as well. And just remember, anytime we speak out loud, it's getting recorded. So if we're saying this, and they know that this is what potentially millions of people are thinking, I mean, all you have to do is go on social media and see what the responses have been. What the responses have been, particularly from people who are considered America first, conservative, libertarian, etc. Anyone who voted for this in the House is a traitor. They should be hung, period. Tim Burchett, who's one of the few decent, Republican congressmen, had to fend off like a massive backlash because he said, no, I voted against it because they were coming for him. And you always come harder for the ones that you think are actually working on your behalf, and even in a small capacity as it may be. But as we are now seeing, Lauren Boebert, her excuse, my staff lied to me, all right? And let me tell you, that may seem stupid, but when you consider how dumb so many of these federally elected representatives are, that they don't know their asshole from a hole in the ground, that they basically take the word of their staffers, much like Trump is convinced that he's having daily phone calls with the powers that be in Iran, when in reality he's talking to somebody like out of what was that movie? The one with Christian Bale and
I don't know.
Amy Adams. The one where they're playing con people. Anyway, the point is that they had to hire somebody to pretend.
American Hustle.
Like they had to hire somebody that was an Arab sheik. And in reality, he wasn't. He was an actor. And this is essentially what I think is happening with Trump. He thinks he's talking to a sheik every day. And in reality, he's talking to an actor or somebody else. And
he could be talking to a hologram and thinking that it's real, as we've seen that happen.
Well, listen, I had an opportunity to speak to Teddy Roosevelt. It was really amazing. He really thought he was talking to him, didn't he? He thought it was like a pre-recorded.
Well, it definitely helps explain how and why it would be so easy for him to believe that he's talking with Iranian negotiators.
Yeah.
The Iranians are not talking to us at all. Not only are they not talking to us, but they're not even entertaining our ideas of talking to them. They're done.
Now, let's get one thing out of the way right off the bat. It is obvious that if anybody was ever questioning whether or not the merging of these two military, and again, you can call it whatever you want. You can say that it is forms of intelligence and this. No, it is the integration of the military between the U.S. and Israel. That is what they are attempting to do here. Now, Senator Moreno from Ohio has already come out and said, I'm not going to sign on to this bill if Section 219 is still included. Well, we'll believe it when we see it.
And again, people need to understand that that's why they throw so many different things into one piece of legislation. Right. Because they'll put something in there that they know people absolutely want and want to sign, and then they'll throw something in there that they don't like, and they force them because of all the groups that want them to sign for the thing that they want. And they do this on purpose, which is one of the problems that we have with our legislation, is that we don't do single line legislation. Like, there needs to be single issue bills.
Can we just talk about the fact that the Prime Minister of Israel sends personally typed letters to American Congress members? Like, is that not crossing some serious ethical lines there?
No more so than the fact that all of these Congress members have Israeli flags hanging outside of their offices, and you have people that are wearing IOF uniforms into the Capitol. So I don't know. I think it seems kind of par for the course.
Well, that's why the podcast, listen, when Thomas Massey sat down for that podcast with Tucker Carlson about 2 years ago and said that these Congress members all have APAC handlers.
Yep.
Like at that point, they said, oh, we got to destroy him. Like we must destroy him. There is.
Which is interesting. We already knew that, by the way. Like that wasn't anything that we didn't know. We already knew that every member of Congress had APAC handlers. Anybody who'll take their money has a handler. So do the math.
Yeah, but at the same time, we have to remember that we are very involved in this on a very high level in a way that the average person isn't, and that the average person may not fully understand what's going on or what has been going on. And so I think that once somebody like Massey comes out and says it, and Tucker with the reach that he has, which let's be honest, in the conservative media space, there isn't anybody bigger than him. Maybe some people look close to how big he is, but Carlson's reach is incredible. So that's why it was so consequential for him to come out and say that. And nobody had said it before, not like that. And now you're seeing the effects of what that has actually created. Now what we're faced with is this reality that we are overrun by this genocidal state in conjunction with our State Department that is bought and paid for by these very people. Now, we do have friend of the show who we've been frequently talking about, who I think is the best explainer of a lot of important details. Colin, I need the David Spivak clip, please. If anybody's going to make, and it's funny, the way he explains this bill, it's explained from the concept of, kind of like learning for dummies. Well, this is what David did to help you understand better what this bill is all about and why it is so bad.
So if you're wondering why guys like Jeffrey Epstein, why APAC exists, the National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, is written in pages of legal language that most people will never read, but every American should understand. So let's skip all the bullshit. Here is the NDAA for dummies. All right, so imagine Bill Gates has a friend who is absolutely broke. But then one day your friend says, I think we should make every decision about your wealth together. I'll help you decide where to invest, who to partner with, where your children should go to school, and what you should build next. And your family, you have to accept it because it's for your own protection. Bill Gates would laugh that dude.
This is AIPAC's tweet from earlier. The House just passed the National Defense Authorization Act authorizing pro-Israel provisions that will help keep America and Israel safe. The bill prioritizes U.S.-Israeli defense cooperation. Cooperation is the word that they use to further enable both nations to counter ongoing and emerging challenges.
And, guys, also, if this goes back to what I was telling you before about the destruction of all of our assets, our bases, and our presence really over in West Asia. And what's happening is that we are now completely dependent on Israel for being that's our only asset really now in the region. So it's really kind of dumb. It's sort of along the lines of when Hegseth called the meeting of all the very important people into one room. So now basically all of our military, tactical, strategic, all of that stuff is going to be done out of Israel, which is this tiny little thing that Iran has crosshairs on. And we are completely in that with them. So, yeah.
By the way, in case anybody's wondering, this just came across the wire. The Senate race in Michigan is over. It's done. Satan Yahoo Milikowski just endorsed Haley Stevens. Now, go home. Forget it. It's over now. And Stevens will accept that endorsement gleefully.
It won't matter either way. The people that we're going to, it won't, that race has already been, the people know who they're supporting in that race.
That's true.
Out of the room. But in an Epstein APAC world, the broke friend gets to call the shots. Now apply that same idea to the United States. So the United States military is the most powerful military on earth. Israel buys all of their military equipment from us. Yet Congress wants to create a permanent framework for long-term military cooperation with the biggest terrorist government since World War II, Israel. Every American should at least understand what your elected official is voting on. Your tax dollars are supposed to serve the American people first. That's why this matters. Americans now hate Israel. And this bill doesn't benefit Americans at all. In fact, it's treacherous. If your senator votes for this bill, you need to never forget it. You need to vote them out.
And this is where we differ from David. No, we don't need to vote them out because voting is not going to solve the problem. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't vote and that there are things to vote for that don't matter, but they will always figure out a way to make sure that whatever is in the interests of those who are of the ruling class, the true ruling class, they will always get what they want. The only way that this is not going to continue is in words of friend of the show and somebody who has done amazing content for quite some time now, James Lee. James Lee came to the conclusion that the only option is revolution. There is no other way.
Yeah, I came to that conclusion a long time ago, hence the name of this channel. We know that voting is not helping us. It's just not helping us, which again, I mean, vote if you want to. I don't know. It doesn't seem to do anything. So.
No, but at the same time, voting is one part of the equation. You see, in other parts of the world, France always comes to mind. If the people are pissed off, they get in the streets. They actually do shit. They actually make the lives of their elected officials a living hell. As a matter of fact, I had sent you something a little earlier, Jen. I did not pull it up for tonight's stream, but you have to see what is going on in Albania. How these elected officials are not only not getting in a moment's peace, they can't go anywhere without, you know, what you would call militia groups basically showing up and throwing rocks at them.
Good.
Basically telling them that you're marked, like you're marked for good. And that's the way it should be. Now, as a result of this happening, I do think that a lot of them are going to be marks. Now, with that being said, it still has to get through the Senate. The Senate needs a 60 vote, not a supermajority, which technically I guess would be.
It'll get through. It'll get through.
Well, here's the thing. Senator Moreno from Ohio has already indicated that he's not going to sign on if Section 219 is included, and he's the senator from Ohio. Now, what you would need is all 53 Republicans to vote on it, and then you need 7 Democrats to cross over. And so if you take Moreno out of the equation, then you're going to need 8. Now, we all know Fetterman is going to vote for it, and maybe Schumer will vote for it. You know, there's a handful of Democrats right off the bat that you know they're going to play that role. But it all depends on whether or not there's enough GOP senators that get the fear of God put into them. I'm looking at you, Rand Paul, where they ultimately decide it's not the trying to think of the saying is the juice is not worth the squeeze. That's what it's going to come down to for them. They're going to have to make that determination. And right now, based on what the energy is suggesting, no, it's not worth it. Now, would you like to see what happened on Capitol Hill earlier today? This is what happened during lunchtime on Capitol Hill after the bill was passed.
Marco Rubio, wow, celebrity sighting. How about American schools? How about education?
Members of Congress, thank you so much for overcoming the will of the American people. Thank you.
Make no mistake, this is treason. This is voting against the interests of the American people. This is the end of our sovereignty. I don't give a fuck if Israel is the worst country in the history of the world. The idea that we are doing this with anybody flies in the face of everything that this country is supposed to be about. Everything. Then you take into account that we truly live in a nation of taxation without representation, which is what the revolution was for in the first place. And this is treason. Full stop. Thoughts?
I have mixed thoughts because on the one hand, yeah, it's treason. And on the other hand, I don't know, we kind of deserve to go down with them. It's also, from everything I'm understanding, our military right now is so overextended in terms of what our capabilities are that even if we are in bed with Israel in terms of our military, the amount of years that we would have to produce what we would need to do what we say we want to do, they're not going to exist that long. So part of me feels like I don't really care. Because at the end of the day, we're all going down with this.
Probably.
If they're going to, well, yeah, our military is waning. We're having a serious problem. We've given so many weapons to Israel, to Ukraine, that we are so depleted. And the Iranians know exactly what we have, like I said before. So yeah, you want to merge our flailing military with another military that's completely dependent on us, and put those together in a very small place that's extremely vulnerable to an entire world that hates us. Yeah, I'm with it. Okay. If that's how y'all want to go out, that's fine with me. But I don't give a shit about the nationalistic stuff. I don't care about your flag. I don't care about your imaginary lines. I don't give a shit. I'm against our military, whether it does it just with us, whether it includes the Zio state. I will not like it in a box. I will not like it with a fox. So I don't give a fuck. I'm against it either way. That's what my thoughts are.
Please, Israel, not for the U.S. Thank you so much, American taxpayer. Thank you, American taxpayer. Thank you for supporting us.
Stairs.
8 countries and $1 billion a day of your tax money.
That's great.
Not your tax dollars.
Make more money, master.
More money for Israel.
Take more money.
From Massey, final vote total for the NDAA today, which tragically merges our military tech and supply chains with Israel's. Let's hope this version falls in the Senate because Section 219 is a betrayal of our sovereignty. Yes.
I would suggest that everything that we've been doing in relation to the Zio state from the beginning of our relationship with the Zio state has been a threat to sovereignty. And again, I don't care. Not about that. So
No, but I also think that this is
my people are fucked either way. So the people that I care about, the people that I'm fighting for, the people that we are about, our people, we're fucked. We're going to be fucked whether or not this passes or not. This passing and the blah, 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 it's not going to make a bit of difference because in a few years, Israel will no longer exist. We won't be the world hegemon and it really won't matter except for we'll have a depleted military. And then we'll just have to like hope for the good graces of the countries that we've been bullying for our entire existence to not do the same to us when we are no longer capable of producing what we need to support ourselves. Because we're not.
But at the same time, you and I have discussed that while it is absurd what they're doing, all they're doing is accelerating this revolution.
Yes. That's what I'm saying. You're taking a military that is being so rapidly depleted, and now you're combining it with a country that depends on us militarily.
Yeah.
So they're not adding anything to us. We're completely depleted, and you want to merge those two things. All right. You're merging shit and shit. Okay. What's that going to do? I don't know. It's not going to do anything. It's not going to change the dynamics. It's not going to change the fate. So I guess, yeah. But if that pisses off enough people on the red team that they want to come out and join the revolution, then I'm here for that.
The thing that we want to discuss that I think ties this entire story together that is very important for people not to forget is that we have talked at length about how when it comes to voting, when it comes to what actually happens on the floor of the House, on the floor of the Senate, and the kabuki theater that these federally elected representatives put us through to make you think that this is actually good guys versus bad guys. No, it comes down to who are the people in the room that make the decision. And if somebody like, for example, Larry Ellison or George Soros or Charles Koch or Elon Musk or Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates, when they decide that something is going to go down, it goes down because the concentration of wealth and power has been put into the hands of so few people that are, I mean, let's be honest, we're also living in an age of absolute narcissistic man babies who have a complete lack of interpersonal communication skills because all of it is more or less predicated on again, there was the Industrial Revolution, then there was the Tech Industrial Revolution, and the people who are at the head of it are the worst type of lacking in interpersonal communication. And because of that, you have people like Peter Thiel who sit around when they get interviewed debating whether or not humanity has the right to exist. Do you think humanity has the right to exist, Peter Thiel? Well, if you even have to hesitate, that means
I don't think humanity has a right to exist. So what does that matter?
Okay, so then I guess we're all doomed.
No, I just don't understand why people are so concerned with what our rights are. First of all, nothing has a right to exist, just like no country has a right to exist. So that's just stupid. That's stupid. Can we stop saying that? I've explained it before. Let me say it again. Rights are things that are granted by governing bodies and by powers that are over you. Right. So in order for a country to have a right to exist, then you would have to have whatever it is that governs that right and grants that right. See, countries don't have rights. People have rights. People have rights. Governments have obligations to protect those rights. Now, whether or not humans have the right to exist, I would suggest that that's ridiculous. No, we don't. Nothing has the right to exist. We exist because we exist. And it's from where I'm sitting, we're doing a really shitty ass job. And we will cease to exist, and we will have existed in a blip compared to how long the dinosaurs were here. But sure, let's keep fighting over your imaginary lines.
Well, when you bring up dinosaurs and how long they've been around, that kind of flies in the face of this idea that we just happen to be living in the era where God magically.
Look who it is.
Yeah.
Hey, Chip.
How you doing? Look at those poopies.
It's been so long.
Listen, the whole purpose of what we do is to be able to make money so we can hopefully have a dog farm one day or, a chicken. Well, you have a chicken farm. So
and the chickens are now full-time outside. They are no longer behind the curtain. There are no chickens in the house. It's very exciting.
There's no one behind you trying to scare you. Okay. That's
no,
good.
There's no chickens in the house. I'm very pleased. I prefer the chickens outside.
If there's any reason to believe that this bill is not going to pass in the Senate, it's because there's enough people that are starting to recognize that this is no longer, we're going to write a strongly worded letter, we're going to vote you out. This is, we are going to surround the Capitol perimeter. You thought that January 6th, 2021 looked ugly? You ain't seen nothing yet. That's not even an appetizer. That was a bunch of cosplaying morons who thought that they were going to reverse the decision of the election. And let me tell you something. Do I think that the 2020 presidential election was on the level? No, I don't. You know how I know it's not on the level? Because if you look at the way Trump was president during his first term compared to the way he is now, it's night and day. Now you're really talking about somebody who the entire system's hooks are into, and he does exactly what he's told. When he was president back in 2017, 2018, and they were asking him questions about what the fuck we're going to do with Syria and Yemen, and remember what he said on national television, Jen?
We're
totally going there for the oil. We're totally
right. Well, and I appreciated that. And I agree, Sonia. I think that January 6th isn't shit compared to what's going to happen. And I don't know what is actually going to happen. I don't know. I'm okay with not knowing, though. I'm okay with that.
Sure. I think and here's where I stand. This is my opinion. And I
They
wonder if-
do. They do. And my chicken breed, the chicken breed we have, has 5 toes. Most chickens have 4 toes. These chickens have 5 toes, and also their toes have feathers on them. So they're extremely weird looking. They're
Edith
very
doesn't.
funky. Edith doesn't. We have one chicken. She's adopted. She's different than the other 5 chickens.
Don't
Edith is
say
different,
she's
and she
different.
has regular chicken feet, not freakishly 5-toed chicken feet like our chickens.
Alex, it is a coop. It is a chicken coop.
He's talking about.
I know he's talking about J6. I'm making fun of it. I think it's ridiculous.
There is a chicken.
ridiculous.
The
And
coop is where the chickens are, is where the coop is.
Here's the other thing that I will say. The second something smells like a rat, the second something is off, is the second you know that it's all bullshit. Once it was determined that there were feds in the crowd that were egging people on to go inside,
Of course.
you know it's a setup.
Of
Pure and
course.
simple.
It
Now,
always was. Everything about him is a setup.
correct. Were they stupid? to
Butler,
show up?
Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Again, here's the thing. Were they stupid to show up like that at the Capitol? Sure. I still want to know how there are people that listen to Nick Fuentes, even though he is on video with a megaphone saying we have to storm the Capitol. And yet he never got arrested. Nothing ever happened to him. And yet somehow he has a multi-million-dollar operation of a podcast. Nothing to see there.